Welcome back to Cbus Mob. We are here for episode 2 of season 2. I am super excited to have Jess Stanley. She is a dear friend of my wife and I's, and really just a rock star. We are going to talk about how she stepped into the shoes as executive director of Brave Men Inc. to lift the stigma around prostate cancer, how she overcame her fear of public speaking, and the self-confidence that she has gained through leadership. So super excited to have Jess on.
All right. Welcome to season 2 of Cbus Mob. I am here with Jessica Stanley, a esthetician salon owner and executive director of Brave Men Inc. Jess, introduce yourself.
Well, you did a great job. Jessica Stanley. I have been an esthetician for 27 years now, which is unbelievable. And the official executive director for Brave Men Inc. for a little over 2 years now.
Okay. Well, I know what Brave Men Inc. is because you were friends with my wife, and therefore I am friends with you. But please tell our audience what Brave Men does and what amazing work they continue to do.
So Brave Men was founded by my husband, Demetrius Stanley, who was diagnosed with prostate cancer in September of 2019. And unfortunately, he lost his battle in February of 2023. His mission with the foundation was to lift the stigma surrounded by prostate cancer and to get men to start talking about their health. You know, we as women are kind of trained to start going to the doctor annually at that 18-year-old mark, 21-year-old mark. Men, you know, all of a sudden at the age of 40 or 50, depending on family history, you can't just tell them to start going to the doctor every year and they're going to do it.
You can tell them. They may not do it, but you can tell them.
Exactly. And they just, you know, we sit around and talk about everything, intimate things and all of that. Men don't do that. Our biggest mission and also Brave Men's tagline is real men talk about health. So we're really just trying to create a community that feels safe for men to, you know, open up and start talking about their health concerns and be proactive and go get their early screenings.
Yeah. How has that been? Because you obviously are a man, and so you have to kind of lead all men to talk about this. Like, how did you navigate that transition to taking over as executive director and steering those conversations?
Yes. Well, I made a promise to Demetrius that I would continue his work. And although he's the named founder, we actually started it together from, you know, day one. So I have a full awareness of how he wanted to, you know, charge his mission because he was so loved. He's made it really easy for me to get in to speak with people. You know, doors open very easily for me because of Demetrius and how loved he was. But I will tell you, you know, I sat there for a minute when they were considering me for executive director, and I thought, how strange is it to have a woman leading a nonprofit for prostate cancer?
Right.
I was reminded, one, that Chris Spielman runs the Stephanie Spielman Foundation for breast cancer. So I was like, okay, you know, maybe I could do this. And also, just kind of like what we said, how men don't talk about their health. A lot of times, the women in their lives are their biggest advocates, whether it be their mom, their sister, their spouse, their girlfriend, their daughter. You know, a lot of times we as women can advocate for them better than they can for themselves. So I feel like I have a voice in this because I've been through it with Demetrius, and the experience alone, I think just gives me the space to be able to talk to men about it.
Yeah. And I've been to a couple of the events. You do an amazing job, and you can see the love everyone there, if they knew your husband, has. And I think maybe this is me reading into it, they lift you up as well. Do you feel
Yes.
like you've got the community to help lift you up as to make sure you can do all the big things you are doing?
Always. There's
Yeah.
always love flowing. I mean, just circling around our family in general, but especially when we have events like that and I'm asking people to show up or, you know, help in any way, there's always people stepping up. So
Yeah.
I'm very thankful for that.
And speaking of your events, you just finished your big Marquee event. Tell me about it. How'd it go? How much bigger was it than years before? All that good stuff.
So typically, we've started out with annual bourbon events. And for anyone that knew Demetrius, knew about his fancy jackets and clothes that he wore when he was on sports news for 10 years, his different colored velvet jackets. And he was very much into fashion. So I decided, you know, I feel like he's always working through me. I can feel
Mhm.
that. And so a fashion show really made sense. So this was our very first blue Runway for Hope men's fashion event. We had his suits, his velvet jackets up on mannequins at the event.
Fun.
And all of the men, the theme was blue. So all of the men had some sort of element of blue on the runway. And we had a great crowd. It was a lot more work. I was kind of winging it, just grabbing people that I knew would be able to kind of help me in this field. And we really pulled together and pulled it off. It was an incredible night. And I've had some really great feedback since then. And I've had a lot of people reach out and ask how they can be involved for next year. So we're already in the works for next year.
That's amazing. When you get that, we'll share it on our channels. So send us the
Yes.
dates and we'll get it out there.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So, with all of the fundraising that you do, because that's what these events are for, what are the things you do other than one, you're advocating for conversation, but don't you do a care packs as well for folks going through treatment? And I know there's some other cool stuff that the Brave Men does.
So that's our biggest initiative, actually, is called the Brave Box. And what it is essentially is a box filled with all of the essentials that you need after you have your prostate removed from prostate cancer surgery. So Demetrius and I kind of came up with a list of things that he had needed when he got home. And that's what we fill the box with, along with literature that gives people some information about post-care and just a prostate cancer journey in general. We also are partnering with a men's mental health facility. So we're going to be
Amazing.
adding in a rack card with a phone number so that if someone feels like they need support that way, there's a number that they can reach out to and support groups soon to follow.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So those boxes, we actually partnered with, it's a company called UCO out in Marysville, because we used to build the boxes in my living room. And
You've outgrown that space, I assume
yes,
by now. Yeah.
yes. So as we've expanded from Ohio into now Michigan and also West Virginia, we have UCO Industries out in Marysville. They're another nonprofit. Half of their employees have developmental disabilities. So building our Brave Boxes is a really great
That's
project
awesome.
for them. Yes.
Yeah.
And so they kit and ship our boxes for us to the medical facilities, and then the facilities pass them out to their patients before they have surgery.
Oh, that's incredible. I love it. All right. So it sounds like you're flourishing as executive director. Do you think there's anything that you took from running your esthetician business for almost 3 decades now that you're just like, oh, I know how to do this, or like, I know how to bookkeep? Or is there something that helped you transition to just flourishing in this new role?
Yes, I think human connection is probably the biggest thing. That's always been something that I love anyway, just throughout my entire life. But being in the spa industry, you have such a personal connection with clients. And so to be able to carry that kind of loving human connection into what I'm doing now, which is very much needed. That's been a great transition. One of the things that was hard to get used to for me in the beginning, because I've worked for myself for so
Yeah.
long, to have to remember that I need to get things approved by a board.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
It's
was
hard.
very difficult. I'm just like, yeah, I'm out here doing this, getting that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to actually ask and get this approved before I do it. So that was a hard transition for me, but we're there.
Yeah.
We are there.
Yeah. No, it very much like as a small business owner, you just do because you are the only person. So
Yes.
yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
no, that's funny. All right. Besides having to ask for permission because there's a board that you have to kind of tell what's going on, has there been any other challenges as you take this on? I know you're speaking in public versus doing one-on-one, with individual spa clients.
That's definitely been my hardest challenge. You hit the nose. you hit the head, or however you say that.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So you hit the nail on the head. Public speaking has never been my thing. That was actually always Demetrius's thing, which I loved. I was kind of the wallflower, like, good job, you did great. And so I say often that he is looking down at me laughing because he knows how uncomfortable I am in those situations. But a lot of meditation, positive self-talk, instead of thinking this is horrible. I can't do this. I can do this. I'm getting better. And instead of focusing on me and worrying about messing up, I'm more focused on the message that I'm delivering. I'm
Yeah.
focused on the people and the message that they need to receive from what I'm saying. So that helps a lot too.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I'm glad you found your way to get through it. Do you have like one like, hey, this meditation was the best for me? Because I know public speaking is a huge concern for anyone, but especially our small business owners and nonprofit leaders.
I think the best tool that I have ever been taught with meditation is when you start to have a negative thought, to visualize putting the thought into an actual balloon that you're holding, and then let go of the balloon and watch it float off into the sky. And it works for me. It's really just training your mind to let it go. Yeah, it works. There's
All right.
another, yeah, you have to
I'm
try
gonna
it.
steal that. Yeah, I'm gonna steal it.
There's another exercise too I was taught where if you ever have like a person who's giving you a hard time, or maybe just creating some stress in your life, to imagine you connected to them with a cord attached and cutting the cord, and again just watching them kind of float away
Hmm.
and letting
Yeah.
that go that way. Those have
Okay.
been two great meditation exercises that have worked for me.
Well, that's amazing. Okay, I'm gonna try the balloon. That one seems more up my alley than the cord, but I'll
Yeah.
keep it in the back of my mind.
Yes. Hopefully we don't have too many people we need to let go of like that, but
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, so in the last 30 years of running your own business, being, this new leadership role, what is the best piece of advice anyone ever gave you that's helped you in some capacity?
gosh, that's a tough question. I think probably building my self-confidence, honestly. I think just, I'm a hands-on learner, so I typically just dive in and do and make the mistakes, and then, that's how you learn.
Yeah.
But, with aesthetics, I never really had an issue with confidence. With Brave Men, I have. It's just a whole different beast. And I think, just looking at yourself in the mirror and realizing, why can't I do this? Why shouldn't I be the one? So, I think just mainly giving myself credit, more credit than I give
Yeah.
myself, and being
Yeah.
more confident in who I am and what I'm doing.
I think, at least I have found as I talk to more people who take on bigger roles, I realize how many more people are just kind of winging it. They're just like, well, I don't actually know if this is the right thing, but this is what I'm doing and I'm going to do it with confidence.
Yes.
And people buy into that. Even if it's not 100% on point, you've done it with confidence and you've expressed that. And so, it works.
Well, and it's kind of like, do people really want to know what I have to say? I mean, you know what I mean? It's just that question going through my mind. I'm like, of course they do. They want to hear the story. They are going through similar situations. They want to hear from someone who's experienced
Who's lived it?
this. Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you find because you were the supportive spouse in this, you've got a lot of spouses who reach out to you to say, like, hey, can you help me? My husband's going through this, or my son is. And do you find that because it's not a survivor leading the organization or not someone going through it? I don't know.
I find that a lot, actually. I know of so many people that have prostate cancer. I mean, I have had so many phone calls where people call and say, you're the first person I'm calling to tell. I've just been diagnosed with prostate cancer. My husband's been diagnosed. Even I've had nurses from the James call and say, we have a terminal case here, and they really could talk. It would be really helpful if they could talk to someone. Do you mind pulling them? So I've had situations like that too. And the emotional weight is quite a lot to bear, especially the first case. I'll tell you, Demetrius was so strong in the way that he didn't want to put on me the things that he was mentally going through, because he knew I was mentally going through my own things already.
Right.
So talking to the first male patient who had just found out that he had just a bit of time left, and to hear all of the emotions that he was expressing to me, I could connect that to Demetrius and think, man, that's probably what he was thinking. That's probably what he was feeling. And he never wanted to share that with me and weigh me
Hmm.
down with that. So that was very emotional. I think as time has gone on, I realize that, again, what I have to say and my experience can actually help people. And that's been a real big part of my healing process.
Yeah. How do you preserve your mental health in all of this? Because I know as having lost a parent from cancer, sometimes talking about it just brings up a lot of emotions, and you're doing that regularly.
The big events really take it out of you. I feel like the day after, I'm kind of like, whoa. You get so caught up in all of the things that you have to do to get ready for an event
Mm,
that when you get there, it's almost like a smack in the face, like why you're actually there and doing what you're doing. So there's always kind of an emotional hangover the next day for me,
yeah. Yeah.
but it's worth it. You know, it's
Yeah,
worth
you
it.
get to help a lot of people, which,
Yeah.
yeah, but I can see that you have the buildup, which is execute, execute, execute. And then you get there and you're like, this is the thing we're doing.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. All right. Well, I have one last question for you. This has been a pleasure. What is your best piece of advice to someone who is either taking on a new big role or starting a new business?
I think one, it's always important to surround yourself with good people that you can learn from. There's so many resources out there and people who do want to help. You can just find your support system and don't ever think that you're alone. Just, find the best people that know more than you and learn as much as you can, but also just dive in. Experience is the best experience. So that's the advice that I would give.
All right. I have one follow-up from this because I just had a meeting with someone and they were like afraid to ask for mentorship and advice. And to me, that's a no-brainer. Yeah, I'll help. Like, how can I help you succeed? Because the better everyone does, the better we all do. Have you ever run into someone who's like, no, or like, how do you approach that when they're like, I want people smarter than me? How do I find, or just other people to be a sounding board?
Mhm.
How do you navigate that? Because that ask can be stressful.
I think expect a no. Some people clam up. Some people don't have the mindset that we can all do this together. They feel a little like, well, are they going to do better than me? Or what would the word be for that? Just maybe just protective of their own space and they aren't open to helping. But I think more than not, people are.
Yeah.
But I think always expect a no. You're going to hear no however many times in your life, and you just move on. And that's
Yeah.
probably not someone that you want to get advice from anyway. So,
Well
yeah,
said. Yeah. And you'll never hear yes if you don't ask the question.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Ugh.
And that being said, the James reached out because of this event and asked for a long term partnership with us. So I
Congratulations. That's
thank you.
really exciting.
Thank you. So, yeah, I was on the Zoom meeting and I said, well, if you want a long term relationship, how do I get a building with his name on it, like Stephanie Spielman? And I said, you don't have a men's health clinic over there. And
Yeah.
she got me in touch with the head of development over there. So I have a meeting. I have a meeting on April 28th. So,
Ugh.
to your point, if you never ask, it's always a no. So,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
Well, amazing. We will follow up to see if the Demetrius Stanley building gets constructed.
yes.
That's amazing. Amazing, Jess. All right. Well, I really enjoyed this. I think our listeners will too. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. It was fun.